Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today we will be discussing the movie In a Violent Nature. A Canadian slasher movie stands out for its unique perspective. It's told through the eyes of the killer. So without wasting any time, let's get started. The movie begins with a group of friends discovering a locket hanging on the remains of a fire tower. One of them, Troy, pockets it, thinking it is real gold. Soon after, the ground begins to shake, and a dead man named Johnny rises from the ground. He becomes angry and begins looking for his necklace. While roaming in the woods, he comes across a dead fox caught in a trap. He continues walking and eventually hears two men having an argument. He notices they are distracted and goes inside the house. There, he comes across another necklace that he mistakes for his. He looks at it and remembers how his father gave him the necklace, as the last memory of his mother telling him that the necklace would signify that they are always with him. Before he can touch the necklace, the owner of the house comes in with a rifle, but Johnny quickly takes the rifle from him. The owner gets scared and starts running toward the forest while begging for mercy. He is eventually caught by one of his own traps, which he had laid out for wild animals in the forest, and he is brutally killed by Johnny. He goes back to the house to get the necklace and is disappointed to see it isn't his mother's necklace. Johnny spends the entire day wandering through the forest until he encounters a car full of friends passing by. Intrigued by the noise, he decides to follow them. As night falls, he arrives at a bonfire where the group has gathered. They're in good spirits, joking around, and one named Aaron starts telling a chilling story to entertain the group. He narrates a tale from 70 years ago when this very part of the forest was bustling with lodgers, and because of no facilities nearby, merchants were selling basic goods at inflated prices. There was a young boy named Johnny, whose father managed all the stores here, making Johnny, who was developmentally delayed, an easy target for the lodgers' frustrations. One day, a drunken lodger stumbled over Johnny's toy, injuring himself and blaming Johnny for causing the fall and making him jobless. In retaliation, the lodgers played a cruel trick on Johnny. They told him that they had found a bag of toys in the fire tower. That night, Johnny snuck out of his camp and hurried to investigate, unaware that the lodgers had set up a man in the tower to scare him. When Johnny climbed up the tower, he was startled by the man wearing a firefighter mask, and he fell from the tower, causing his death. Overwhelmed with panic, the lodgers placed the firefighter mask on Johnny's dead body to make it look like he was playing recklessly. Next morning, when Johnny's father came across the body, he immediately thought of the cruel lodgers and decided to confront them. This caused a heated argument, resulting tragically in Johnny's father being killed. The men involved claimed self-defense in court and were not charged. A week later, a group of business executives arrived at the scene and discovered that all the lodgers had been killed. The companies and executives that rented out camps tried to cover the story by paying heavy compensation to those who were widowed or orphaned, and the police determined that the deaths were caused by contaminated food. A policeman mentioned seeing a person in a firefighter mask nearby but was silenced. This led to rumors that Johnny's spirit was seeking revenge. After sharing the unsettling story, the group decides to take a photo before heading into the cabin. From a distance, Johnny watches the entire scene and then hears tensions rise between Troy and his girlfriend. He quietly stands outside the house and watches them pull the curtains down. A while later, Aaron slips away for a smoke and is teased by his friends about chasing after girls. Taking his chance, Johnny silently approaches Aaron when he is far from the group and chokes him, cutting his tongue into two in the process, and murders him with a draw knife. He then moves the body to an old ranger's office nearby, which is no longer in use, and uses Aaron's mutilated body to break the glass. Inside, he finds an old firefighter mask which Johnny wears. Johnny spends the night in the ranger's office, and in the morning, he walks back to the cabin with various life-threatening weapons. Before reaching the cabin, he comes across two of the friends named Brody and Aurora, who are near a lakeside. They joke there, and Brody gets into the lake for a swim. She tries to convince Aurora to join her. However, The latter declines, saying that she woke up this early for yoga and that Brody can come join her for stretching after she is done swimming. Johnny starts submerging himself in the water and reaches the area where Brody is swimming before pulling her inside the water. She tries to scream for help, but it is of no avail as Johnny is far stronger than her, causing her to drown. Johnny then gets out of the water and begins looking for Aurora. He finds her standing near the edge of the cliff doing yoga. Aurora thinks it's just Brody and lets out a loud scream when she faces Johnny. However, because of being in the wilderness, no one comes to her help, and Johnny uses his dragging hooks to stab her stomach and pushes his entire hand through her. He then puts a hook inside her head and drags it back, causing her neck to bend and push out through her abdomen hole. He then pushes her dismembered body down the cliff and watches it roll down. Johnny again walks through the forest with his axe till he hears Chris asking Troy if he isn't worried about their missing friends. Troy easily dismisses it, saying it's no big deal as Aaron must have gone to the gas station, 4 hours away from the cabin to meet some girls, and Brody and Aurora might be on an adventure of their own. The other guys suggest going to the police as they have a serious gut feeling that something is extremely wrong. Troy denies going anywhere, and when the other guys insist on going on their own, he throws the car keys into the forest, which are discovered and taken by Johnny. They start looking for the keys, and Johnny starts playing with the car keychain. Colt finds the axe that was dropped by Johnny earlier and tells the group that something is not right, but Troy dismisses his concern. Colt and Chris decide to drive off to the ranger station down the street to call for help, and for that, get on an ATV. Johnny breaks the toy car he was playing with and moves towards the cabin. He uses a stick to press the car horn, catching Troy and Evan off guard. Troy steps out to check, prompting Johnny to attack him with an axe which narrowly misses Troy's head. Johnny strikes Troy in the leg, and Evan attempts to shoot him. He misses the first shot and then hits him in the chest the second time. This causes Johnny to fall down for a minute, but he shrugs off the bullets and kills Evan with the axe. He then crushes Troy's head with a large rock, searching for the necklace in Troy's pockets, but he doesn't find it. Meanwhile, Chris and Colt return, warning Troy and Evan about Aaron's body found in the ranger's office. Johnny spots Chris wearing the necklace when she investigates the blood near the car. He hurls an axe at Chris, but she dodges with Colt's warning, and they flee. Later that evening, Johnny overhears the ranger scolding Chris for wearing the necklace that keeps Johnny's spirit restrained. The ranger recalls Johnny's past killings and how he was forced to bury him 10 years ago. Subduing Johnny with a shotgun, the ranger orders Colt to fetch chains to secure him in the fire tower. As Colt takes the gun, Johnny seizes it, ensuring they miss their chance to shoot. Chris and Colt escape, but Johnny first breaks the ranger's backbone and then tortures him with a log splitter. Later, nearing dawn, Colt attempts to trap Johnny and calls out to him. Fearlessly, Johnny heads toward the direction of Colt's voice. In the meantime, Colt urges Chris to hurry to the fire tower and set the trap while he distracts Johnny to buy her time. However, Johnny acts swiftly, hurling an axe at Colt's head without hesitation, killing him instantly. Instead of leaving, Johnny mercilessly strikes Colt's head repeatedly with the axe, causing blood to splatter around. Chris watches the horrifying scene in shock before setting down the trap and gas container she was holding. She places the locket on the container and starts running. She has several breakdowns and panic attacks as she navigates through the forest for the entire night. Distracted and exhausted from running, Chris stumbles down and a stick pierces her leg. Despite the serious injury, she takes out the stick and continues running until she reaches the main road. Spotting a passing truck, she screams on top of her lungs for it to stop and help her. The truck owner is an aged woman who assists her and promises to drive her to the hospital. Chris keeps glancing back at the forest, fearing Johnny might pursue her. The truck driver begins to ask Chris questions to assess her mental state and reassures her that she is strong enough to have survived her ordeal in the forest. She explains that her brother, a game warden, was severely mauled by a bear 30 years ago. Recounting the incident in detail, she describes how her brother was informed about deer carcass in the forest, and he went to inspect it. He reached the area to realize that the animals were badly killed but not eaten or used for meat. He moved around the area and found various other animals dead. He quickly called the office for backup, informing them that a wild animal had gone mad and is killing animals for the sake of killing. The officer told him to keep track of the bear and they will send backup. He kept looking around until he felt a digging in his head. Her brother Bobby explained that it was like 1,000 bee stings at the same time, but he was unable to feel the pain due to shock. The bear drags him down into the water. When Bobby woke up, his colleague was giving him CPR and informed him that the bear had assumed that Bobby had died from drowning and left his body alone. The pickup driver explains that sometimes things happen for no reason. Animals barely ever have a reason to turn hostile, but they still do. She tells Chris that whatever happened was not her fault and she will be just fine in a while. Chris closes her eyes and the pickup driver worries that she might have gone unconscious and tries to wake her up. When she doesn't wake up, she stops the car and this causes Chris to panic and desperately beg her to take her to the hospital. The woman says she will take her to the hospital, but she must first tie a cloth around the wound as she is bleeding heavily. Chris stares towards the forest, fearing that Johnny might show up, but he doesn't. However, the film ends with a scene in the forest where the necklace Chris placed on the gas container is missing, hinting at a potential sequel.